If you're a drone pilot, you know that feeling, right? The second you take off, the questions and sometimes the accusations start flying. But hey, if you're on the other side, seeing a drone buzzing around can bring up some very real concerns about privacy and safety. So today, we are going to bridge that gap. We're tackling the 7 biggest drone myths out there, using the cold, hard facts from the official EU EASA rules.
Ah, yes. We've all heard some version of this, haven't we? It's that gut reaction that kicks off so many arguments. It's the classic standoff. And you know what? It all comes down to a huge misunderstanding about who actually controls the sky.
So whether you're a pilot who needs clear, legally backed answers to have in your back pocket, or you're a resident who just genuinely wants to know what the real rules are, you've come to the right place. Let's cut right through all that noise and get to the facts. Okay, let's dive into the 2 heaviest hitters right away. Where a drone is allowed to fly, and what it's allowed to see. This is all about space and privacy. This right here is the big one. It's the heart of that first complaint we just heard. So, do your property lines really shoot straight up into the stratosphere? Let's break it down. Okay, so check this out, because the legal distinction here is absolutely key. The complaint is simple. The air above my house is mine, but the EU rules, they're crystal clear. Well, yeah, you own the immediate space you need for, building a house or trimming a tree. The airspace used for navigation is public domain. It's managed by the state. A professional pilot can correctly and calmly state they're flying in public, regulated airspace. For example, if a drone is up at 70 meters, it is way, way outside your ground-level property rights and is squarely in federally regulated territory. All right, so we've figured out where they can fly. But that naturally leads to the next huge fear. What are they looking at? Is every single drone pilot out there trying to be a peeping Tom?
So the crucial point here is the difference between flying safely and spying. The complaint is, you're spying on my backyard. But the EU rules actually require pilots to monitor their screens for flight-critical information. We're talking altitude, battery life, signal strength. That's a huge part of safe flying, right alongside keeping an eye on the drone itself. But the real powerhouse regulation here is GDPR. Any professional pilot is legally bound to anonymize personal data they might capture by accident, like faces or license plates, before it ever gets published anywhere.
And this really drives home the high standard that professionals are held to. GDPR isn't just a friendly suggestion, it's a super strict EU law. This means a certified pilot has a legal duty to protect your privacy that is way beyond what you'd see just casually posted on social media every single day.
Now that we've covered the drone's location, let's talk about the person behind the controls. What kind of qualifications do they actually have?
It's a pretty common assumption. People see this sophisticated piece of tech in the air and they think, well, the person flying that must have the same license as someone flying a jumbo jet. But is that really the case? The reality is actually a lot more specific. The complaint assumes you need a full pilot license. But what the EU rules actually require is a very specific certification from EASA. That's the European Union Aviation Safety Agency. We're talking about the A1/A3 or the more advanced A2 remote pilot certificate. So the professional answer is, actually, I hold the official EASA remote pilot certificate. And trust me, this isn't some simple online quiz. It's a recognized European certificate that proves they're competent in air law, meteorology, and operational procedures.
Okay, so the pilot's certified, we've got that. But if you're concerned, can you just walk right up and demand to see their paperwork to prove it?
Now this one is so important for keeping things calm. The demand is, show me your papers. But the EU rule on this is absolute. Only law enforcement or officials from the National Aviation Authority have the legal right to inspect those documents. And why is that? Because, as the pro answer states, those documents contain private data protected under GDPR. The correct and, frankly, the safest response for a pilot is to politely decline, explain why, and then offer to cooperate fully if that person decides to call the police.
So, we've got a certified pilot flying in legal airspace. Let's now tackle the myths about the flight itself, the technology and the actual flight path.
This is a really valid concern. We all hear stories about drones getting too close to airports or sensitive areas. How can you be sure the pilot in your neighborhood isn't flying somewhere they shouldn't be? So often, the complaint is based on something someone heard. My neighbor said this is a no-fly zone. But a pilot's permission to fly isn't based on opinion. It's based on official Geo-Zone maps from their National Aviation Authority. A professional pilot must check these maps before every single flight. Their answer confirms they did this pre-flight check. They can even offer to show the approved flight plan right there on their app. proving they aren't in a restricted red zone.
All right, let's talk about the big safety fear. You see a drone flying near buildings, trees, power lines. Is it just one wrong move away from disaster?
This is such a great example of how far the technology has come. The fear is that the pilot's going to smack into something. But professional drones these days are absolutely packed with tech. The EU rules even recognize features like obstacle avoidance systems and waypoint planning. A pilot can explain that the drone has sensors all over it and is often flying a pre-planned automated route that is actually safer than flying by hand, because it automatically keeps a safe distance from any obstacles.
Here we are, our final myth, and it's probably one of the most common rules people throw around. But is it really a black and white law with zero exceptions?
So the complaint is mostly right. You absolutely can't fly over big groups of people, like crowds at a concert. But, and this is a big but, there is a critical exception in the EU rules for what are called C0 class drones. So a pilot can explain this nuance. Because their drone is under 250 grams, and to put that in perspective, that's less than a bottle of water, it falls into the one single category that EASA allows to fly over individual, uninvolved people, because the risk is just so incredibly low.
Let's be crystal clear on this. The C0 class isn't just a suggestion. It is an official EASA classification. It's a certified category for drones that weigh under 250 grams. Their low weight means they have very little kinetic energy, which is the whole reason the law recognizes them as uniquely safe and gives them this very specific exception. They are the only ones.
So, there you have it. 7 common myths, all debunked with the actual facts. The big takeaway here is that professional pilots are trained, they're regulated, and they are totally committed to safety, compliance, and privacy. By staying informed, we can all help make sure the skies stay open and safe for everybody. Now, we really need your help to get this factual information out there and hopefully cut down on some of these unnecessary confrontations. You know, education is everything.
Please do us a huge favor and like this explainer, drop a comment below with any other myths you've heard, and most importantly, subscribe to the Jolly Roger Aerial Photography channel. Make sure you hit that notification bell, and please share this with any other pilots or concerned citizens you know. We'll see you in the next one.